and welcome to Adventures in Local Marketing from BrightLocal, the marketing podcast for marketers who want to do good local SEO. In the upcoming episodes, I'll be chatting with a smorgasbord of marketers who each bring their unique insight into the local marketing landscape. And each episode is going to serve up a one-stop overview of our guest's chosen topic area. It's going to give you tips and tactics that you'll be able to dash off and implement right away, as well as offer insight that will get your brain cogs whirring. I'm your host, I'm Claire Carlisle, and I am BrightLocal's local search expert, as well as a chartered marketer with 20 years of experience working with local businesses of all shapes and sizes. And today we are going to be chatting with the brilliant Steve Wiideman. So Steve specialises in strategic planning for multi-location and franchise brands, and he is the Wiideman Consulting Group founder. He has created key strategies for sketches, public storage and linkses, and he currently consults with several Fortune 500 brands in retail, consumer electronics and multi-location services. Steve has got a strong commitment to upskilling organisations by providing teach you and do it with you services, aiming to liberate businesses from what he calls the shackles of agency support. And when not behind his desk in La Mirada in California, Steve enjoys travelling with his wife and two daughters, and he is currently enjoying the adventure of helping both girls get into college and all of the changes involved with it. So, hello Steve, and welcome to the show.
Hello, Claire. Thanks for having me.
Hello. Thank you for being here. Now, we have got you on as a special guest because we have recently created the Brand Beacon Report 2024. So we're benchmarking local marketing excellence for multi-location brands. So that report covers research around investment in marketing channels, the relationship between local marketing strategy and marketing performance, as well as marketing tactics used by the high-performing multi-location brands. So we looked at 200 marketing decision makers in the multi-location space to try and get a better understanding of landscape and to share the secrets of their marketing success. So obviously you're an amazing person anyway, but you're an amazing person to ask questions about this because of your experience. So I'm going to delve into the findings to get your take on them. And I'm looking forward to asking questions about your experience and seeing if your experiences reflect what we've seen in the report. So we're going to just jump straight in.
Let's go for it.
Right, so Steve, let us start with something that was quite surprising for me, which was the focus on social media as an important channel for the multi-location organisations that we asked. So out of all of the channels, it did seem to be the one that they invested in the most, but they also said that they saw impact from it. Is that something that you see reflected in your work with multi-location clients?
Sure. I think it's a two-part question. Yeah, I think there's the part of, do I see it being used? Of course, I absolutely see it being used. Do I see effective campaigns and strategy being implemented? And do I see a lot of engagement being garnered? Not really. And you can actually, everyone who's listening can go to Twitter, X, right? X now, and you can create a Twitter list or an X list if they're ever going to call it that. And you can add some of these, like, let's just add restaurant chains just for fun. Add the restaurant chains to an actual Twitter list, and then watch the stream over the next few days so that you can see the types of content that these chains, these franchises and multi-location brands are producing. And what you'll see, a common theme, is there's some really interesting, sometimes really fun content, but there's not a lot of engagement, and there's not a lot of strategy as it relates to working with other brands and building off of other brands in the same way that influencer marketing itself works. As an influencer, you don't just push content out. You interact with other influencers and you piggyback off of their influence to garner more followers. And you're not really seeing a lot of that, and you're not seeing a lot of consistent themes across both. So what I see is I see a lot of brands that are using social media because it's a very quick fix that they can get. They can put something out and in a few seconds see reactions to it. In fact, they have to do it quickly, and the reactions they'll see are quick because of how social algorithms work. So it makes sense to me. And Will, our company president here, always says, "Look, you can either have it, cheap, quick, or good. Pick two." And what we're seeing with social media is it's cheap and it's quick, right? But you're not really getting the long-term value out of it. It's a quick fix, and I feel like a lot of the brands are using it because if you think about multi-location brands and franchises in particular, a lot of the staff are younger folks that are working on location. And the younger generation, social media is natural to them. They're doing it for themselves before they even get to work. And then they get to work and they just take a picture, do a quick video, come up with a quick idea, throw it out there, into the wild. And yeah, TikTok will show you thousands of people viewing it. But are those your customers? Can you do any sort of online to offline attribution to make sure that that's tying into it? Is that part of your funnel to get them to be part of a loyalty program, or to get them to be a long-term customer? I don't see a lot of that kind of activity happening. So I feel like they're taking a little bit of the cheap route because they know how complicated and how much effort it takes to create an amazing piece of evergreen content for your website. And so they'd rather just do the quick little 5 seconds, 10 seconds here and there than invest a week into developing a really strong location specialty page, for example, that will garner very long-term SEO results and traffic that won't go away, once the social media algorithm changes, if you will.
Hmm. So do you see like a similar amount of investment in? I know that you have worked with some restaurant brands. Do you see them, taking that, using social media and seeing it as an important part of their marketing?
Of course, and I'm sure in some aspects it is helping as part of their overall campaign, right? There's a percentage of their business that's going to continue to come from social media, especially if their content's fun and interactive and helpful, especially if it's humorous, because that's the type of short form content we like to consume. So yeah, I do believe that it is part of multi-location businesses and franchise strategy for sure, 100%.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you're saying about, big brands using it, but not necessarily being that
Strategically.
strategic. Yeah,
Mhm.
about, getting it done because it's a tick rather than, this is really performing for us and these are the reasons that it's
Yep.
doing so.
Claire, if you talk to somebody who lives and breathes in social media too, it's almost like talking to a drug addict because they know how fast and the types of ways that you're supposed to publish content in social media, TikTok in particular, and how their algorithms work. And they're like, look, I can't put together a content calendar for social media because that's not how social media works. Social media is I need to be in the moment, at the moment that the things are happening. I can't just plan something out 3 weeks in advance. I need to plan it out this morning for what we're going to do this afternoon. And you talk to them, I swear it sounds like they're drug addicts because they feed off of the instantaneous needs of those social media algorithms, TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Reels in particular.
Yeah, I guess you've got to be very reactive to do it well. Okay. Thinking about one of the interesting parts for me in the sort of multi-location puzzle is who is doing what and where. And one of the bits that was picked up on in the report was the multi-location brands and how they manage those local marketing activities with a hybrid of headquartered work being done, but also then that branch level management. So I was just interested in your experience of combining those approaches and if there's anything that should always be kept at sort of headquarter level and some things that should always just be branches that are running themselves.
Of course, it's a really good point too, and we have to remember there's multi-location and there's franchise, right? The multi-location brands do tend to keep a lot of control over everything because the locations aren't owned by individual franchisees. The franchise owners, franchisees, are a little bit different in that they've invested money of their own to own and run a franchise, so they're going to do everything in their power to make it successful, and they don't want corporate to feel like they're getting in their way. So there's that aspect of it too that will determine how much of it's going to be managed at corporate and how much of it's going to be managed at local. The quick sort of easy answer to it comes in the result of a single page that we've put together for our clients that breaks the local search activities into three parts. The first part is what corporate does, and we break it up into the four different aspects of local search. So first part being your data management. Corporate will manage the data to make sure that it's always accurate and always consistent. If you need to make changes to your phone number, do it through the CRM. Do it so that we can pull it from Salesforce or from whatever we happen to be using into our data management platform that becomes our single source of truth. Right? Data management platform, like you guys. That's number one. Number two is going to be on location pages. Please, don't create a rogue website. We're managing a page that we're optimizing to make sure that we can control and help you to have better visibility in maps and in web search. Number three is going to be visibility off the website in terms of links and citations, and we've got a certain part of that already managed through the data management provider. And then the last part is going to be reputation, and this is where there's that sort of discussion that has to happen around who's going to be responding to reviews. Is it going to be corporate, or is it going to be the location, or is there going to be some sort of a hybrid where if you don't respond within a certain time, corporate does it? That's row one, right? That's talking about data accuracy. It's talking about local page optimization. It's talking about citations and links, and it's talking about reputation. Those four aspects that are the living, breathing pattern of activity that search engines pay attention to. The second section is around what we don't want them to do. And those are, again, using rogue local SEO agencies. When Joe Schmo, SEO specialist, walks in and says, hey, I can help you be number one in search and get you more foot traffic, right? You bust out the sheet and you say, well, tell me about what you're going to do. Oh, well, actually, corporate has that handled. Corporate has that handled too. Actually, we don't need you. We're good. That's number one. Don't have rogue websites. On the second side of things, where we're talking about our local page, it's shocking how every day, we see a location trying to do something smart, and they create a WordPress page somewhere, and then they want to update their Google listing with that WordPress page, and then 2 weeks later, it gets hacked, and now it's serving malware or something, and Google's demoted our listings because of unsafe content. The third part, is thinking about how it's very, what's the word I want to use? It's uh, there's that element of, I can go buy 8,000 reviews for my business right now from this software company that will do it, and they're real people. If I do that, then I'll have more ratings than my competition, and I can outrank them in search results. And then all of a sudden, their listing gets removed completely for violating Google's terms of services or Yelp's terms of service. So we try to discourage any sort of asking for reviews on Yelp. We discourage anything that seems like we're trying to game search results by reviews. Now, the biggest part of that page, the third of the three elements of that one sheet page that goes out to every single location, is what they can do to help, right? In the first column, when we're talking about our data accuracy, is have employees use their map apps, whether it's Apple Maps or Google Maps or MapQuest, for those people that still use MapQuest, and get directions. Are the directions right? Are they best directions? Could they be better? Is the pin in the correct place? Right? There's some things around data accuracy that will help. And by the way, when you're doing that little bit of using the navigation engine and getting to the location from the moment you leave your home to get to your work location, that's activity. That's showing search engines that people are looking for you and going to your location, whether it's an employee or customer. That's good, positive activity to do, even if it's for the main purpose of trying to make sure our information's correct. The collateral benefit is that we're showing the search engines that we're active. The second thing we ask our individual location owners or managers to do and to help with is making sure that they're spending a few hours every month, maybe even just an hour every month, finding places that they can put their name, address, phone number, and maybe even get a link back to their location page. And it could be something as simple as going to their Chamber of Commerce, finding the city business directory, maybe it's something like, if it's allowed, doing a local event. Recently, there was a Meet the Sheriff at a Starbucks location here, and a lot of local businesses in the community center and civic center and government websites posted the name, address, phone number of that Starbucks in correlation to being a coffee shop where you can come in and have a conversation with the sheriff for a few minutes and answer questions and talk about all the the issues that the city's dealing with. So you can run some little events like that. We had an attorney who had, I think he had like 16 locations, and for one of the locations he did a helmet giveaway on like National Bicycle Safety Day, and he gave helmets to kids. It was amazing. We got in the local news. We got lots of name, address, phone number citations. So doing local events and interacting with neighboring businesses and civic centers and so forth, and community centers can be a great way to build that visibility off your website in a way that search engines are going to find, and tie that into your rankings. And the last and probably most important piece is around reviews. And sometimes we've got to get really creative. So beyond that one sheet guide and those three sections, we'll provide a review support guide. Here's an extract of what Google and Yelp say about reviews and some tips they provide about what to do and what not to do. Important things about how to respond, how not to be reactive when you respond, how not to sound like a robot if you're using AI and you're just spitting out the same result. When people are looking at your reviews and they see the same response every time, they're going to know you don't care, that you're just using an AI program, to drop a response in. So we try to encourage creative ideas. Maybe you're a breakfast franchise and your logo has a smile on it, and you leverage that in a button and it says, "I smile for reviews," right? Little things that you can do, especially when you notice a customer had a really great experience. You can say, it's tough being a business in today's digital world, and it means the world to us if you had a great experience, if you can share your experience online, perhaps. And here's where you see a little bit of what goes into the review. Perhaps you can talk about what you ate and what you liked about it and why you came in today to begin with. Those types of prompts enable them, the customer, to actually use search terms that'll benefit us in our search engine rankings, and Google will even highlight them in the Google Maps section. So the review component, we want to focus on the quality, quantity, and velocity of what we're getting. So when we deliver that one sheet that says, here's what we take care of, here's what we don't want you to do, and here's this big section of what you could do to help us, that should be something you review every quarter, and then you get together with those locations in a big meeting, and perhaps even do some sort of competition among them, and say, hey, by the way, good job, location in Arizona. You did a fantastic job this month with getting better, higher quality, and a higher velocity of reviews than your neighboring competitors. So, you get the, whatever award of the month thing. There's some really creative things that you can come up with to do that. But as we know from the 7 leaked court documents that went live, a couple of months ago, that Google's admitted that they're using user behavior signals as part of their algorithm. So we need that click. So if we're getting 3 stars and our competition's, getting 4.5, we're probably not going to get the click. And that user data could play into why we're not ranking in the top of the search results. So we need to not obsess over it, but we need to make the ratings and reviews part of our daily cadence of what we do in our business, not just serving and making customers happy, but making sure that customers who are happy are leaving feedback about their experiences. So that's our approach when we think about who does what on corporate and on local side. That one sheet helps really define who's doing what, and it helps prevent things like rogue websites or changing of business data that doesn't need to happen at the local level.
I love the way that you described the one sheet which manages expectation. There's such a tremendous amount of clarity about who does what. And then it sounds like there is also, there's a big educational part of this, isn't there? With really upskilling the individual locations into all the amazing things that they could be doing. One of the things that you pointed out is like the local link earning and the local link building, the PR citations is so powerful. So it was really nice to hear that talked through like that with those examples, and really, giving those locations the chance to shine and leverage all those relationships that they have. That was brilliant. Thank you. as well, based on the research, looking at the high performing multi-location brands, um, unsurprisingly, tend to be those with dedicated local SEO strategies and teams that really understand local SEO, the difference between SEO and local SEO. Why do you think it might be the case that not all multi-location brands are getting on board with the importance of local SEO and having local SEO specialists within their team?
Sure. And here's another two-part answer, I suppose. Part one is maybe they have, but they're unable to push anything through because the teams that they have working in the different departments from tech, content, and PR just aren't bought in to being able to do it. And which just explains why social media could be so easy. I don't have to get a developer's approval to do a social media post on Facebook, but if I want to load up a specialty page on my site, I've got to go through a ton of red tape, go into the MarTech backlog, and it's not going to happen for 6 years. So I think that's part of it. I think the other part is I think they're probably not enlisting folks that are experts in the industry to come in and sort of lay out a strategy or to do a review of their strategy. Say we had a third-party SEO consultancy come in and put a strategy together. Could you, as another consultancy, take a look at that, give us feedback, and add to it if you feel like there's a gap or something missing? I think that's an important aspect, and really it's surprising to me still that we're in 2024, and when it comes to social media, some brands are taking an approach of, oh, we're doing digital marketing, as opposed to taking several months to really research and build out a strategic plan for how they want to tackle tech, content and content roadmap, and off-page SEO and local SEO. They don't really map that out. They don't put a timeline together and say in January we're going to focus on core web vitals. In February we're going to focus a little bit more on page speed or security or accessibility. In February, we're going to do a revamp of our location pages based on research we've done in our industry and the new AI that's coming in to make sure that we can address what the competition's up to, plus what's coming, with voice search and everything. So I feel like, and this is common, even some of our I'll consider them smaller clients, but they're $1 million clients that have a very small team. They they just they just want to see quick results, and they won't invest the 30, 60, 90 days it requires to really do that research, because that'll hurt the bottom line during those 3 months, and that's a painful thing for a lot of businesses. So I think it's two parts. One is the buy-in it takes to get some of those things approved and pushed through, which is why we did our study, was to give SEOs an empowerment mechanism to say, hey, we need hyperlocal content on our pages because it'll give us 107% competitive advantage. We need location images because it'll give us an 84% competitive advantage. We did it that way to give them the resources they needed to quantify and create a business case for it. But the other aspect of it, like you mentioned, is they don't know what they don't know. And I think hiring a consultant or a leader in the space, to come in and really kind of take a look at their strategy or help them build one, can make all the difference in the success of how their SEO initiative goes.
You've already mentioned AI, and obviously we do spend a lot of time talking about AI. It's our new favorite hobby. But and I know that you're very passionate about AI and uses for. So touching on that, in the research, we saw that the big brands, so businesses, according to the research, we categorize them, so it's more than 101 locations, are overwhelmingly prioritizing AI and automation. But the same businesses say that their biggest challenge this year will be increasing labor costs. Okay, so do you think that this priority is designed to combat the challenge of increasing costs with regard to labor?
That is interesting. I think is it Lauren Baker and some other folks in our industry talk a lot about how AI isn't going to replace our jobs. Instead, it's going to add more jobs to the folks that need to be using AI. It's more prompt engineers, and you're right, it does increase labor costs because now you need a higher level of talent to be able to harness that technology in a way that benefits the organization. So you make a really valid point in that study, and I think that it makes sense. You really do need people who can take something that's new. You've got a lot of veterans in our industry, and a lot of them don't want to evolve and change. Hey, I've done the same thing for 20 years. What I do works. I don't need all the new prompts and chat GPTs and so forth. But if they look at that chart that was in the report you created, which was amazing, by the way, there's several things in there that make a lot of sense to use, like data analysis. Oh man, can you imagine if in a few seconds we can use AI to look at all the different reviews and come up with a sentiment analysis of what our customers actually think of us, or to find themes of keywords that are really interesting to them that we can incorporate into our titles and descriptions to boost our click-through rates, or into our taglines of who we are as a business in addressing the things that our customers really like about us or don't like about our competitors. There's so much that can be done with AI. Where the challenge is the platforms that allow organizations to really use that type of data analysis are very, very expensive. And so a lot of it comes down to budget constraint. I am already investing a ton into paid search. I've got these expensive SEO folks that are working with us. And I'm using a data management platform that's super expensive. And now I've got to do another thing. It can be really, really challenging and expensive. Where the smaller businesses trying to use AI can absolutely use it for ideas, for content, for coming up with tables of contents and ways that they can address Google's whole expertise and experience, authority, trust signals, things like that. There are some free ways that they could use AI, to improve their business, but the bigger ones, the data analysis and sentiment analysis and automation, and how we're seeing reviews and maybe coming up with a pool of templates that we can use when we're getting thousands of reviews that we want to respond to be able to do it in a way that feels unique, can be very expensive. So I think that's the holdup from those that aren't using it, is the cost of it, and going back to the don't know what you don't know. And that's why I think what you created there in that report is so helpful to all the businesses that need to know how they should be using it. So kudos to you.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. That sounds like a great idea, and that's one of the things that personally, I struggle with, is just seeing the opportunity. So you're like, you could use this and it will do a thing, but how do I actually do it? So that's what I'm looking for now, is really, and I'm sure that organizations of all sizes, you're just looking for some actionable, this is the prompt, this is what you should do, this is how you do it. And that's like separate from these expensive platforms that you're talking about, is just understanding the opportunity and where it could slot in to all the different parts of your existing processes. So you did mention your study, which you very kindly shared with me back when I was writing some content about location pages. So that was super, super helpful for me. So your study was back in 2021. So you looked at location pages and specialty subpages. So this whole idea of, unique content and building out all of this unique content around our local provision. So can you just let us know the key findings from your research, and if you feel that any of them have changed, given that we have the introduction of Google's search generative experience and AI?
And so let's go back to when we started the study, right? This was, initially because we do work with a lot of restaurant chains and multi-location brands that had that challenge of, yeah, we're doing okay in maps, but in web search below the maps, we're not really appearing very often, and we're seeing a lot of delivery service providers and DSPs and Yelps and TripAdvisors show up above us, and we're having to use Barnacle SEO to make sure that we show up high in those destinations, where we wouldn't have to worry about it as much if we could just outrank them, in organic search. And so they started to, really feel the need, and we tried to address it by performing this massive study in the same way that you did with your recent report. And the key findings were, number one, as I just mentioned a minute ago, is that hyperlocal content. And how that's changed is now you don't need an army of people to go out and pull the data fields to come up with that local content, such as distance from the freeway, or nearest lake or river or ocean or park or museum or college or university, things that are evergreen that you don't have to keep changing all the time. You don't want to put what businesses are nearby, because those businesses will change all the time. So we try to focus in on things that, hey, we're only 22 minutes from the nearest mountain, or 15 minutes from Disneyland. And you have to be careful too in a lot of those cases because of trademarks, and that can get a little bit weird as you start to go through the legal process of getting some of that content published. But thanks to AI now, we can actually get that content very quickly and have it validated very quickly. And when I say quickly, I mean within 24 hours, you can have data that would have taken you a year to come up with for 2,000 locations. One person pulling that information manually can be 1 to 2 hours per location. And when you're talking about thousands of locations, it's just not scalable. It's really, really challenging to do. But now, thanks to AI, you can create some prompts. You can post in the specific addresses of your locations, and it's just going to do its magic and pull all that data for you in a very short window of time. Um, the second thing was location images, and earlier we talked about how employees at locations can use their navigation to get to the office or to their location. When they get there, how difficult is it just to snap a picture, take a different one every day of a different angle of a different part, outside, inside, parking lots, maybe the team, the front desk, maybe behind the scenes and what goes on in the back. So I think having those kind of images and using those images on the location pages differentiates them. And why do we care? Why don't we just put them all, just name, address, phone number, hours, directions, map, and call it done, right? And because what happens, especially if you have two or more locations in a city, you'll go into your Google Search Console and it'll say we chose a different canonical URL because we found them to be too similar. It'll actually remove your search result for one of your locations because it's too similar to another one. So we want these pages to be as unique and helpful and localized and personalized as they possibly can be. And that's why that hyperlocal was so important, and why images give you that 84% competitive advantage. And I know it's tough. If you've got a location in a very bad neighborhood, trying to get a good picture of the outside when there's graffiti everywhere, it can be really difficult. And it might require some investment on your end to do it. Next one would be, as we go down the list of what we saw as being important, the open now status. When someone has to go to your page and kind of find, hey, okay, I see the hours, but are you open now? That's important. So having that highlighted was a key component of it. Having a map embedded to show users visually where you are was also another important point. We also noticed social media icons, surprisingly, were an important factor. You wouldn't think, right? I mean, our goal is to get them to convert and to go into the store or into the restaurant or wherever your multi-location brand is as quickly as possible. And social media distracts from that. And as an e-com person by nature, I don't want them to leave my page. But users want to see what other users think of a location, particularly when it's a chain, because chains have such a bad reputation of being low quality. So having that social media enables them to click a link, go straight to the Facebook page or straight to an Instagram or wherever, and see how other customers or potential customers think of that particular location. So having that on there, and it's also kind of a barnacle SEO feature, because now you're linking from your page to a social media page, which gives that social media page a little bit more visibility. So maybe if TripAdvisor is showing up in the search results, you'll be lucky and it'll actually be your TripAdvisor URL in the results. So there are some incremental benefits there. Other factors that we looked at included use of a video, having a link to directions, on the page. That was really important as well. If you do have product categories or menu categories, listing those on the page can be an important factor for customers who want to know, does this location have the same thing as other locations do? Amenities and attributes of that location, such as free Wi-Fi. We're working on kind of a secret project related to coffee shops. And one of the things that we're going
Ooh.
to try to do to differentiate ourselves is we're going to state whether it's digital nomad friendly, because if you go to Yelp or somewhere else, there isn't a field for that. And we're talking about the ability to actually plug your laptop in and maybe buy a coffee every couple hours and work remotely for the day there. So having those kind of attributes to tell your customers who are interested in certain things that those are available at that location is important. And pulling in, of course, the reviews and sentiment and feedback that you're getting from your customers and reiterating it on the page so that they know right away what they can expect and not expect at your location. So those are just examples of attributes. Now we're talking about specifically the location page of the physical location. There's other templates that are part of that whole idea, right? One of them is the city page. If you've got multiple locations in a city, and do you need a city page if you only have one location in that city? Probably not. You could probably just take them straight to that one location and save a click. The other part of it's those specialty pages, and when we talked about how multi-location brands, a lot of them have a strategy. I've talked to a lot of multi-location brands, and I can tell you specialty pages and sub pages for locations aren't part of that strategy. We just reviewed a local report with, one of our clients, and like, here's some good news is that none of your competitors have specialty pages. So let's create some delivery and takeout and specials sub pages for queries like specials near me and delivery near me and takeout near me, because your main delivery page off the root isn't going to solve for that localized query. So I think there's a huge opportunity there when it comes to really digging deep. This started in 2014 with Meineke Car Care Centers here, and they had, I think it was like 900 locations, and we thought, hey, this would be a really cool way to see if we can address muffler repair and oil change near me queries for each location by creating a specialty page underneath each one. And that year in 2014, if you remember that old company called Natlo and the placeable top local marketing, that was the year Meineke actually won that recognition. And all we had accomplished was just building out some 8 specialty pages for each service that they offer at each location. And yeah, it's a lot of content to manage. It's a lot of media assets, and asset management, that you've got to work through, because I know there's times and limits on media assets to do. But if you can figure it out, if you can navigate your way through that, the benefit is just thousands of visits from all the different ways that people are searching, and finding yourself outranking the Uber Eats and Postmates and Grubhubs of the world by having more localized relevant content that they can't scale to offer.
Yeah, and actually getting that ranking yourself rather than relying on like third-party sites that are going to not be managed properly with awful
Right.
reviews on them. And this comes up a lot, touching on location pages again, and thinking in the context of multi-location businesses that have got potentially, thousands of locations. What are your top tips for scaling, basically?
The first most important task is getting buy-in. Once you've created that strategy, that game plan to address those 4 pillars of local search: data accuracy, page optimization, citations, and reputation. Now you've also got to address the fundamental organic SEO, which is tech, content, and links, right? So you've got to take all those things, put them into a strategy, and then review it with every team: the tech team, the brand team, the legal team. You've got to go through all those different aspects and get buy-in. That's the biggest challenge. And to save yourself frustration, don't don't get into starting to work on those things until you've gotten that buy-in, because it can be so frustrating for an SEO specialist or an SEO team to try to do what they know they need to do to get traffic, and just consistently come up with roadblocks that could have been prevented had they had spent the time, to educate the other teams and get them on board with it. And if you're really savvy, you can figure out some ways to make it think it's their idea, right, that they're doing. And if you're really savvy as well, pro tip is making sure you give them credit, even though it was your idea and you help implement. Give them credit for it. Hey, thanks to the support of the tech team, we were able to see not just an increase in organic results, but we're seeing an increase in conversion rates because our pages are loading faster. So thanks to them for their help, their support, and their ideas of making that work. I think that's probably the most critical aspect from a team standpoint on how you scale, is getting buy-in. The next part, is as you address each of those different areas, that goes back to what we talked about in dividing who's going to do what. So from a scalability standpoint, we know at corporate, we can manage the business data through the business data management platform. We can develop, optimize, and scale our local pages. And thanks to AI, we can add hyperlocal content Next part is, the citation side of things. That's mostly going to be on the side of the location itself, and that cheat sheet, that one page that you provided, and reiterating how important that is every quarter, maybe even every month, with each team member, and seeing how they're doing and getting those local citations. That's going to be a challenge, particularly with multi locations and not franchises, because there isn't a franchise owner who cares. Those people who are at the multi location, in some cases, are just, I just work here. Why should I care? I'm going to get paid either way, right? But a franchise owner is going to have a whole different perspective and take it on as their business, as their company. And then, of course, the review side and scaling that is a lot of educating the locations and coming up with programs and plans, to help them help you to see a higher quality, quantity, and velocity of those reviews that we want to get. But I would say that the biggest change in what's happened in scaling across those different disciplines of local is our ability to use AI to collect, capture, and validate hyper-local information and helpful information, even help develop the outline or the table of contents of the type of content, and especially FAQ content on those local pages themselves. I think that's kind of the advantage that we have that we didn't have 2 years ago, is that now we can use AI, to make our pages more helpful and more localized. So you could say something like, in context, something like, thinking about going for a picnic at Craig Park, um, stop by a Joe's sandwich shop to grab a sandwich and coffee for your picnic, right? So you can hyper localize that content, and it's dynamic in the aspect that the park and picnic part are are static in the template, and then the name of the park and the distance to the park are the fields that are dynamic. So you can really templatize this and scale it without having to write a custom page of content. One thing on that note that I do recommend not doing is just straight out using AI content and slapping it on your page and saying, hey, we can just create a page from ChatGPT or Gemini in a matter of seconds. Let's just create 1,000 pages and have dev load them up. And that's great. And you might see this nice huge boost in the same way the recent SEO, what was it, the big SEO case study or whatever, where the guy stole all the traffic. um, and then what happens? It all goes away because Google recognizes that users recognize that content was just created for search. It wasn't really helpful. It wasn't really personalized. It wasn't really on brand or have the brand voice. Even if you tried to have AI use the brand voice, users recognize that, and that affects the search behavior because they go back to the search, they choose a competitor, and over time Google says, oh, well, I thought this was really helpful, but turns out users didn't like it. So I'm going to demote that page and the rankings go away. Anyway, so don't use AI explicitly for just copying and pasting content to your website. You may think it's easy and helpful and see it working for some brands right now. That's not a long-term strategy. That's a hack and a technique. So be careful.
So just to follow up on that then, the whole idea of using LLMs for content development. How do we use them? How didn't we use them? Anything else that we need to avoid? You gave us some tips there, but anything else that just needs to be avoided if you're starting to think about generating content using those?
What's that old saying? If it feels too good to be true, it probably is. If you feel like something's too easy, you should probably talk to someone first before you deploy it. And in our world, we always want to test things. We don't want to just guess at it. And I think it's important, if you're going to test some new structured markup, if you're going to test adding images or a 360 video or something to your page, don't just roll it out across your thousands of pages. Have a test group and a control group and set up the metrics that you want to measure. For me, it's going to be things like click-through rates. It's going to be average position. It's going to be traffic and revenue. By the way, that was something else interesting from the report. Is I saw a lot of feedback around how revenue was the most important, which is really interesting because a lot of our multi-location and franchise brands really care more about getting people into their locations, is the foot traffic and driving them to locations. So I thought that was really interesting, and I'm going to ask some of our clients about that too, because I do know some of our clients really do care about purchase-driven intent content, but the metric that they're using isn't revenue, it's foot traffic. It's, are we getting more people to our locations? So I thought that was really fascinating.
Thank you very much, Steve. That was amazing and so detailed and just lovely. I feel like I've just stared deep into your brain and I really liked it.
It's a lot of fun. It's fun to be in an industry that's so dynamic and so changing. And I don't know, if I think if I had any kind of last advice for SEOs in a world where we do have a lot of that kind of imposter syndrome with the cloud of uncertainty happening, is embrace it and look forward to the challenges that are coming ahead. You know, there's always going to be a need for SEO as long as people are searching for services and for what businesses offer. There's always going to be that need for SEO. So while what is going to be displayed is going to change, our passion for understanding what shows up and why and how we can sort of reverse engineer it for our clients is never going to change. So be excited about it and have fun with it and explore and test. And if you want to throw anything by me, by all means, find me on any of the socials. I'm just SEO Steve everywhere. I've been that for the good part of 20 years now. So happy to share thoughts, insights, or just talk shop with you if you'd like.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. So you just said the word passion, and so I just wanted to thank you for your passion, which comes out so clearly in the way that you speak, and also thank you for your clarity and your insight, because you made everything so easily understandable. So thank you very much for that. If I'm sure we will have listeners that want to know more, maybe have a look at that research you mentioned, maybe read a little bit more about the systems and processes that you were talking about, the 4 steps. Can they find those things anywhere? Where should they go to?
Sure. Yeah, we still have them on the website. So if we are doing some updates pretty soon, and we're going to update a lot of our studies as well. But for now, you can just go to Wiideman.com, Wiideman. The very first link in the navigation goes to that original research that we did in 2021. On the Learn tab, you can get into a little bit more on local and content optimization and conversion rate optimization, and play around with a little bit of the work that we've done in trying to help our clients, to see better results in search.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So make sure you follow Steve on Twitter. Make sure you go to the website, have a look at those resources. So we've said a big thank you to Steve, and I just want to say a big thank you to our listeners as well. So for our listeners and our watchers, please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, because then you'll know when we've got new episodes. And then if you have enjoyed listening or watching Adventures in Local Marketing, and I hope you have, please leave us a review wherever your platform is that you're listening to it, and share it with a friend and listen to it together and have good local SEO times, because it does help us. It makes a real difference, and it helps us, get more listeners and share all this excellent information with people. So we will see you next time on Adventures in Local Marketing, and I'm looking forward to it already. Thank you very much.